The temporary exhibition that we have in the gallery, it's the Gallery of the Middle East, and we have a range of material from the Stone Age all over the Middle East and through into Islamic times. And this particular display is featuring the story of our excavations that we conducted in Iran in the years between 1975 and 1979. Most of the material that you see in the display case is a replica because the architectural fragments themselves are still in storage in Iran. When I first worked there, when I was part of the British Institute in Tehran, I thought that the site belonged to the Sasanian era, mostly because of the name associated with it, Qaleh Yazdegerd. But when I later had a larger scale expedition from Canada in 1975, I came to the conclusion that in fact it was a Parthian era site. To explain the extraordinary fortifications and yet with an elaborately decorated palace, I came to the conclusion that in fact this was a warlord's stronghold who took advantage of the road that goes up from Qashishirin to Kermanshah. It's part of the famous ancient highway which is often called the Silk Road. And as the road goes past Kirind down onto the plain, it goes through a pass through the mountains, so it was easy for the warlord to wait for the rich caravans to come through, and he would have extracted a toll. He wouldn't have destroyed the caravans because if that happened, then the merchants would no longer go that way. So he simply took a tax from the caravaneers and became very rich for a while, until the Sasanians, in fact, destroyed his warlord's lair, because they had the Sasanians were much stronger militarily than the Parthians were. They had a wider government, a wider state control, and so that was the end of the warlord's life. Well, when I first went there, I explored the ruins. There are extraordinarily long defensive walls along the cliff edge, and there are different lookout posts with quaint names. One is Ashiaba, which is Kurdish for windmill, Asiyababad. Another one gives the name of Qaleh Yazdegerd himself, but these are legends given by the local villagers. The villagers are Kurds. They belong to the sect that we call the Ahl Haq, and many of their beliefs really are interwoven with the idea of associating themselves with the pre-Islamic Iranian past. It was an extraordinary time in my life. I was a young man in those days. I had gone to Iran for the first time in 1962 with a British archaeological team. And then I worked for Americans before I emigrated myself to Canada and acquired a job here at the Royal Ontario Museum. And as such, I had a major expedition. Unfortunately, when the Ayatollah Khomeini took over in Iran, we were no longer able to work there, and I transferred my interests at that point to Yemen, where I had a very successful program for many years. I have written many articles about the work at Qaleh Yazdegerd. Interestingly, we now know that in fact the site was called Sarai Yazdegerdi. There's an inscription nearby in Rijab where a man of the Ahl Haq community donates land to support the tomb of Baba Yaga, who was the founder of the Ahl Haq sect in this part of the world. And I have written articles in academic journals like the journal Iran, which is the journal of the British Institute. I've written encyclopedia contributions, and the book that I have on the table in front of me, this is a book of Persian art, and I made a contribution there on Qaleh Yazdegerd.